This is Energized, a podcast about simple ways you can improve your energy. I'm Dina, a naturopath, personal trainer and wellness coach with 14 years experience working with a wide range of clients to help improve their health, fitness and overall energy. Hello and welcome to this week's Energized podcast episode. It is my first solo show for 2022. Apologies if you are a long-term listener and you have missed the podcast over the last couple of weeks. I know what it's like to tune into someone else's podcast and enjoy the weekly episodes coming out, but with school holidays and COVID and everything else that's been going on, I dropped the ball a little bit and unintentionally didn't record an episode, I did record episodes, that's a lie. I've recorded some episodes interviewing people, but I wanted to do a solo episode all about setting health goals for 2022 and talking specifically about patterns and baby steps, but it's only today that I'm managing towards the end of January to record that episode. So apologies, please forgive me and please stay tuned because I am back to weekly episodes. Just my general health disclaimer before I talk about health goals for 2022. While I am a qualified naturopath and personal trainer, anything I talk about in this podcast is general in nature. If you'd like some individualized advice, please get in touch on my website, dinasabits.com. Okay, so I wanted to talk about setting health goals because I know that January is a time where a lot of people set some New Year's resolutions, and actually publishing this episode towards the end of January is probably a good thing because a lot of the time people set their New Year's resolutions on the 1st of January and then forget about them a week or two later. And so I thought that I would talk about the method that I use, which is patterns and baby steps, and talk you through that so that you can start to set some health goals. And I always tell people as well, you don't have to wait for a new year, although the energy at the start of a year always feels a little bit fresher and always feels like a good time to start setting some goals. So I think when it comes to health and well-being and a lot of other things, people have been waiting for the pandemic to be over for the last couple of years. And it has been 2 years and the world has definitely changed a lot over that time. But I'm here to tell you today that you don't need to wait another year or another month or whatever it is to start setting and achieving your goals. So I'm going to give you probably 3 easy things that you can start implementing even from today. But before I do that, I'm going to talk about baby steps and patterns. So what do I mean by baby steps and patterns? So whenever someone talks to me about their health goals, they've got these big health goals, and I do this as well quite regularly. I ask them to look over the last 2 to 5 years, and yes, it is quite a big amount of time, and look at your patterns. So, for example, let's take drinking coffee as an example. That's a good one. So, if you are a coffee drinker and you tend to vary the amount of coffee that you drink over the day or over the week, or you've had periods where you've managed to cut out or completely reduce the amount of coffee that you are drinking, I want you to think about what was happening at that time as opposed to what is happening at a different time where you might be drinking a lot of coffee. So that is an example of a pattern where you could have gone through. So I'll give myself as an example. It always helps to have a story. So I have learnt a lot about coffee consumption and health and the benefits. And so once upon a time, I was drinking coffee with a lot of milk in it. And then I reduced my milk intake and started drinking long blacks. And then, it got to a point where I was having 2 long blacks a day, which is 4 shots of coffee. And I was really enjoying it because I do like the taste of coffee. But I realized that it was affecting my sleep because I was having the second one a little bit too late in the day, but also I was relying on it. And so I would get a headache the next day if I didn't have a coffee at exactly the same time. So in order to start to reduce that coffee intake and change the pattern, I also learned that not having caffeine in the first 60 to 90 minutes that you're awake is really good for your natural cortisol response in your body rather than cortisol response from the coffee or anything else happening with your hormones from having that coffee. So I also started to look at the pattern around the time of day that I was having coffee and started to cut it out early in the morning and only have it a little bit later. So looking at patterns, and I've gone on and off coffee over the years, so looking at my patterns for coffee, if that was something that I wanted to start to reduce this year, then I would start to look at baby steps. So what I mean by baby steps is taking one small step to change that. So that could be my second coffee of the day being a single shot instead of a double shot. So still having 2 coffees because that was still part of the pattern there, but taking really small baby steps that are achievable in order that a week or 2 or 3 weeks goes by and I realize that I've started to reduce my coffee intake and therefore I am not relying on it as much. I'm not getting the negative side effects that I was getting before, like the headaches. And then the next step would be to reduce the second cup of coffee and also to think about that first cup of coffee in terms of timing. I will add that I'm not drinking two double long blacks at the moment. I generally have 1 coffee, occasionally a second one, but that is something that's happened for me in the past in terms of patterns. So that's an example of patterns and baby steps, but I thought I would give you 3 health goals that might be something you want to look at doing this year. And the first one is to prioritize movement. So I was a part of a workshop this week where I was looking at 2021 and what worked in 2021, and then looking at what worked for me. It was a business-based workshop, but it was also looking at things that I did not in my business, and then looking at those things and thinking, what do I want to take from 2021 that I started doing into 2022? And one of the things that I started doing during lockdown was making sure that I got out for a daily walk, especially because that was one of the few things that we were allowed to do during lockdown. And I realized that even after lockdown, I really enjoyed those walks, getting out in nature, looking at the water, trying to get out into a park as much as I could, just moving my body. And so that was something that I realized looking at 2021, looking at the past, I would like to continue to take into 2022. So if you have been working out or you haven't been working out in 2021, then perhaps you want to start something in 2022. And I am actually starting some outdoor and online workouts. So if that's something that you're interested in or you'd like to try, then please get in touch with me, Dina at dinasabitz.com. Number 2 health goal that you could do is to create a good sleep practice. Sleep affects so much of what goes on in the body. It is really important for repair and recovery overnight. I have a few podcast episodes about sleep, but one specifically called How to Sleep Well and Wake Up Feeling Refreshed. So if sleep is something that you do struggle with, then please go back to that, and I'm hoping you will learn a couple things in there. Another health goal, a really simple one, is to eat more veggies. So going back to patterns and baby steps, patterns, you could look at your diet over the last, not even, it doesn't have to be 2 to 5 years, you can look at it over the last 24 hours and think, how many veggies did I have in there? And a baby step could be literally to go to a supermarket and buy one extra veggie that you don't normally buy and add that into your daily diet. That can be a really easy way to look at a pattern and take a baby step in order to achieve that health goal. So I hope that you've picked up something in this episode about setting health goals for 2022 using patterns and baby steps. I'd love to hear from you. I am at Dina Savitz on Instagram, or send me an email, dina@dinasavitz.com. It's always really nice to hear from listeners what your takeaway message is from this podcast. And if you have enjoyed this podcast and you are on social media, then please take a screenshot and tag me in it so that I can see that you are listening in, and let me know what your health goal is for 2022. If you'd like some help with your health goals, please get in touch. Again, dina@dinasavitz.com, or just jump on my website, dinasavitz.com, and you can book in for a consultation, and we will definitely talk health goals for this year. Have a beautiful rest of the week.